to Tuckerton in 2005 from northern Delaware, Wilmington area. And I belong to a group over there, the DFVA, Delaware Foundation of Visual Artists. And we did an impromptu once a week meeting of artists at Howard Johnson's, believe it or not. And we'd bring in our artwork and we'd have breakfast and we'd talk and we'd share ideas. And we learned a lot from each other, but it was also a social thing. So when I moved over here to Tuckerton, after a couple of years, I joined Pine Shores and I went to a few meetings, but I still missed that, informal social thing, impromptu. You never knew who was going to show up at the restaurant. So I was saying that to a couple of the artists from Pine Shores, and they said, well, why don't you start something? And one of them, Paul Hartelius, was a member or volunteer at the Seaport, and so he suggested that maybe the Seaport could let me start my little group there. So I thought, well, okay, I have a place, and then one of the other artists came up with the name Art Chat. So I kind of, okay, I'll give this a try. So never having done anything like this before, and I can't remember exactly how others, the first few that started, I don't
Probably
remember.
from Pine Shores.
Maybe.
And then word of mouth, people bringing friends.
And I know Carol and Bob Neugebauer, I met, them early on and they came and then you came. And then once Tom started to come, people who took his classes wanted to come to Art Chat so that they could get a little bit of Tom's time when they didn't have to pay for it. So over the last, I think it's 6 years, it's by word of mouth and by it being put in the sandpaper because Pat Johnson worked at the sandpaper.
Mm-hmm.
She came to Art Chat initially, and so she made sure that it was always in the sandpaper. So a lot of people have joined as a result of seeing it in the sandpaper and just showing up. And the Tuckerton Library, I was a member on their board, and I saw this nice little room that they had at the back that nobody was using, so I asked if I could use it for Art Chat. So we moved there, and it was sort of like being in somebody's living room. And so it grew, and
Pleasant.
yeah, it was very cozy and comfortable, and everybody would bring in their stuff and we just talk about it. So, and now I'm up to, I just rechecked my list and there's close to 50 people. Each time somebody new comes, I would say, do you want me to send you a reminder before the next Art Chat? And so I've gotten an email list of all of these people. And so Sunday before Art Chat, I send a reminder. And we used to meet on Thursdays. But then with the changes over COVID and Pine Shores trying to have groups meet again, I said they had things going on Thursday, so I'll take Tuesday, since we're starting all over anyway.
Yeah.
And so that's worked out pretty well, I think, at this point. I don't know, can't think of. So here we are, and having our first art show, because the librarians know me now. They had an opening here, and that came up last November, and said, do you know of anybody that would be interested in having a show? And so I asked the Art Chat group, and I had 25 people. I want to bring beauty into the world, for one thing. There's so much ugliness, and there's so much bad news out there that I think if you have any ability to make things better, really should try. So a lot of the things that I like to do are maybe more emotional. The painting that I brought for this show I called it Calm, because when I look at it myself, the original photograph, it's different than the original photograph, but it gives you a feeling of serenity. Mm-hmm. And that's what I liked about that one. It's not as detailed as some of the things I've done, but it's just the whole feeling that it brings. So that's really a lot of my motivation is a scene that like a fireman. I used to do a lot of fireman things when I lived in Delaware, because I was part of the fire company there in Talleyville, Delaware. And just there was one that I did of my husband's cousin who was a fireman in Milltown, New Jersey. And it was the emotion. He was at the scene of the fire. He's wearing his whole gear, and it just struck me, the intensity of what he was experiencing, because his warehouse was on fire behind him. And so I painted that one. That's one of the ones I like the best of all the ones I've done. But those are rare. You know, you come along one, to me at least it's rare, that intensity of emotion. And I really put a lot of hard work into that one. I go first when we start the meetings, just to kind of set the tone or get things started. And so I'll put one of my paintings up, and if anybody has any comments on it, if I'm working on something, I'll ask for critique or suggestions, and then we just go around the room and everybody takes a turn. But when you're new, that's very intimidating, you know. And I know when I was in Delaware at that art group, that was intimidating for me there, and it makes you put yourself out there and share your artwork or your photos with the rest of the world. But this group, the Art Check group, our main aim is to encourage, not to criticize. We all know how it feels to be, you know, up in front of the class for the first time and nervous, and we don't want to have anybody feel like I'm not good enough to do this anymore, you know, and then they stop. So
because for an artist to create a piece of work, and they're creating in their studio, and then it takes a lot of courage then to exhibit it on the wall where many people will see it, and it's open for criticism. So that for an artist, it takes a lot of courage. Not only the ability to create that, but then the courage to put it there. And that's why Art Chat was so important, because we would be helping one another. We understood that it's a group of artists that are all experiencing the same type of thing, maybe at different levels, but the same type of thing. And so we're positive and trying to bring out the right things in their work. And that's why it works so good.
If I could add, there was a time when I brought a picture in and I kept saying, there's something there, there's something there. And I couldn't figure it out. And somebody made a suggestion, and I turned and I looked at it and I was like, yeah, that was it. You know, and it was something that I knew there was something there that I wanted to change, wanted to do, and I just couldn't grab it. And there was another situation where I brought a picture in, and I was saying how I kept working on it. It was water moving. And I kept working on it. I said, I finally got it where this part is where I want to do it. So I'm going to wash the rest of it off and redo it. And they're going, well, how do you do that? What do you use, a paper towel? And I said, no, I stick it in the sink. And they're going, well, can you bring it back? And it's like, well, that's 2 weeks. You know, I'm going to be working on it. So I'm standing there, and I walk out of the room, went in the ladies' room, washed it off, and brought it back and showed them what I meant. So it was something that, again, you know, people were like, wow, you know, but it was like an encouragement, like, look, this is what you can do. This is what the medium that you could do. You know, so it's interesting on that lines that sometimes something that you can't get, you know, or a picture that somebody else is asking, what can I do? And you could say, you could do this or this. And you could get like 4 different suggestions too, and then see which one works for you. And then when the person brings it back and you're like, yeah, that's it, it's great.
It works.
So that's how Art Chat is. It's very, very relaxed, very open. Of course, you get the people that show it and don't want to be critiqued. So you kind of know who that person is, and by the way they put their picture up, and you know not to say anything, and you just kind of wait. Like if they ask for something, then that's different. But most people, you know, it's just like sharing. Some people just take something off the wall just to have something to share.
I have always wanted to be an artist from when I was very young. And then, like I say, life happens, and 50 years went past. So I, thanks to Nancy, we were friendly, and she said, come to the art chat. I was very skeptical about coming because 50 years is a long time. And finally I thought, well, I could give it a try. And then I got very intimidated because I thought, oh my Lord, they are just beautiful pictures everybody did. And but I persevered and kept on going, and I'm so glad that I did. And everybody very, very helpful, and they have your best interest at heart. It's tremendous, I can't tell you. I get emotional because it's sort of like my only bucket list. I always wanted to be an artist, and I'm like, how lucky I am that I could follow a dream.
Mary, can you share the other part that happened to you?
When I was 79, I had a stroke. I lost my whole right side, and I am right-handed. So I thought my little career of being an artist was sort of done, and but I kept on trying and went to rehab, and those people were tremendous, and I was able to write and be able to do my art again, and there again, I am so grateful, and I am so grateful for the art chat.
Yeah.
They've helped me tremendously. I did pen and ink as a young child, and I find it very rewarding. I really like pen and ink. I also like watercolors, but right now I'm into pen and ink. And I also want to say Tom's a great teacher. If you're struggling with something, he'll look at it and he'll say, you can do that. And all of a sudden you do it. And I think that is just amazing gift that somebody can give you. It brings me a lot of peace, a lot of comfort. As Nancy said, a lot of joy, and to sit back when you're done and think, wow, I did that. I can't believe it. It's amazing.
Well, I moved down here officially in 2017, and all my family and friends are up in North Jersey, so it was kind of a culture shock down here. I didn't really know what to do, who to meet, whatever. And as Nancy mentioned, in the sandpaper, there was a little thing in there that said, meets every first and third Thursdays. And I figured, well, I'm not really an artist, I just take photographs. And I had never shown my photographs to anyone. So one day I just wandered in, and Nancy said, have you been here before? And I said, no, my first time. And then everybody welcomed me. And she said, well, what do you paint? And I said, I don't paint, I'm a photographer. And Tom says, we finally have one. Everybody is so encouraging. And, Tom always says, keep photographing, no matter what it is, keep photographing. And when people come to Art Chat for the first time, it is a little intimidating, but Nancy is so easy to get to know that people immediately feel comfortable. I go to a particular place, and sometimes I'm just I'm just uninspired. And it could be something great, but I just don't see it. And there are other times when I go with no expectations and it's serendipity. You're there at the right time and the light is right. And you look through the lens and you go, that's it. And a lot of photographs are one shot. You know, I don't take a lot of multiple shots. It's either there or it's not, for me. I could be totally wrong in the photo, but to me at the time when I take it, it looks right. And there was one that Tom really liked, and it was really minimalist. It was just some trees and a misty background. And that was one of those ones where I was just walking and I just happened to look up and I said, that's it. And, you know, I caught it. I mentioned it a couple of times at Art Chat that I want my photos to tell a story. You know, I did another minimalist one of a tree, and it was just, that tree was dying, but it told a story. That tree had a life at one point, and it was trying to tell somebody something. So, you know, not all of my photos actually come out that way, you know, but I like to think that somebody looks at something and is going to see something in there, and maybe it does have a story for them. I have a small little collection of, of photos, people that are in isolation, and some of them tend to be depressing in a way, but that's what life is sometimes, you know, and having somebody sit alone on a bench may talk to somebody. I don't know, you know, and it's one of those things, you know, where I'm walking by and I just see something, snap a photo. Yeah, everybody is complimentary most of the time, you know, and if they do give you a critique, it's not to complain about something. It's like, well, maybe if you tried this, or maybe if you did that, you know. So I love it. I every 2 weeks I can't wait to come.
I moved into the area in December 2020 and sought out art groups. I came down from the New York area, and I found Pine Shores, and I was really thrilled with that because Pine Shores also has a studio time that worked well for me on Thursdays, so I can go in and paint with a group of artists. But Art Chat is particularly fun because we all are going through that same feeling, like Tom said, is putting your stuff out for display. I always felt that a painting that you produce is like a baby. And if somebody walks into the room and says, that painting's ugly, you feel like they're saying something about your child. So you do put your heart and soul into things, and Art Chat has been really a great experience for me because sometimes I can look at my painting so much that I don't see what's wrong with it. And I notice that I'm not the only one, but most of the people that come to Art Chat, they come up with their painting, the back of it, and then they do boom and put it out in front of you. And so everybody gets that same experience of seeing it for the first time. But what happens when you see it for the first time and you're not the artist, people can see things immediately that could change your painting in a much more positive way. And the gentleness and the kindness around the room of people saying, you know, maybe if you made the sky a little brighter there, or you put a little bit more shadow in there. And when somebody says something to you and you can see it right away, you're grateful for it. Some people say, you know, maybe you should put a turtle there, or you should put something. That's okay, that's very nice, but you know what you want to convey as an artist. But people seeing it other artists seeing it for the first time have a fresh view of it. They haven't been looking at a photograph or something else that you're working from, and they're looking at it for the piece that it is and what could make it even better. And that's so much appreciated. It's like you can't wait to go home and finish it up so you can bring it back and show it to them again. And that's that boom factor again. And they all remember. They all remember your painting
Yeah.
and what their critiques were on it the first time around. So it's very much appreciated. But watercolors is difficult. In as much as I feel you have to work backwards. Because you have to leave all the white pieces of the paper as your highlights, and then you put your color in around it. So if you want to change a scene, it's difficult to do that unless you get another piece of watercolor paper or you wash it off type thing. So I moved over to acrylics, I guess maybe about 20 years ago. And I like acrylics because I can make mistakes and then just paint it over top of it and change the scene around. I do landscapes, but I also like to do animals. I've done several dogs and a cat and that type of thing. I like it to look more or less like a photograph. I paint for me. I do. I approach a blank canvas with a little bit of trepidations, of not knowing what it's going to be, and it makes it difficult to start sometimes. But when I finish a painting, it's one of those things where I prop it up in the room and I walk past it several times for several days and I look at it, and if it brings me joy, and I really sometimes am amazed at how much talent I have, that without classes or just having picked it up after, I always drew as a little kid, and now I'm in my 70s, and I always enjoyed painting and art. As a kid, I said I was going to grow up and be a famous artist. And then, like Mary said, life happens. You get married, you have kids, and everything else. But the paintings that I do, particularly now, bring me so much joy. Like I said, it's like creating a child almost. It just gives you a sense of pride and a sense of accomplishment. But not until I get to that point, when I feel that it's done, will I get that euphoric type of feeling of standing back and looking at it and saying, my gosh, I can't believe I did this. It's great. And I sought out art groups when I moved here. And I cannot believe, of all the places that I have lived, I have never had such a strong art group like I do here. I look forward to it. I've met so many great people in just a little over a year, and it keeps me going. I'm inspired by other people. I'm in awe of some of the artists that are in this group. And it's just a real good feeling. It's a good place to be. But this is my first show outside of Pine Shores. And so I would love to hear comments from the general public. Maybe when we have our reception, that'll be, it'd be great to be a fly on the wall, so to speak, and hear what people have to say. But it's nice that the library, and this library is beautiful.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, wow. So the assumption would be that there's a lot of patrons coming in here anyway, and even the kids, even the school kids, just to have them be introduced to local artists.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing.
I went to art school, Newark School of Fine Industrial Arts, and when I got out of high school, but then I never did anything with it. So I started painting, and somebody had told me about gouache. And gouache is a form of watercolor that's opaque. And somebody I had met told me about Tom and that he teaches it. So it took me like another year before I finally got to take a class, and it was my medium. I just took off from there. So I started, over the years, I started I do mostly landscape, intimate landscape, where it looks photorealism. And I started entering outside shows, again, from encouragement, and started winning, getting into juried shows and started to win some shows and stuff. So I don't believe I would be where I am now if I didn't start at Pine Shores. And then being at Art Chat, it's like giving back, because you're able to now share what you're doing. I love painting water, scenes with water in it. Again, photorealism, where people look at it many times and say, is that a photograph? Because it's so detailed. And one of the little things I started doing was putting a little critter in my pictures. So people now know when they look at my picture, they look for where there's a hidden animal in it. For me, Pine Shores has monthly art shows. So each one of my pictures ends up fitting that monthly art show, and it keeps me going. So the picture that I pick, if it's a theme show, it'll go according to that theme. But if not, then it's just something that, again, I work off of photographs that I take. So right now I'm working on a photograph from 2017 that had been put on the shelf. So that's how I end up working.
I had heard about Art Chat, and we talked, and I approached her, we talked, and I was all for it because, like I say, what I say to my students is that, there is something positive in everybody's work. And I thought, what a great opportunity to get a look at what other people are doing. That's the one thing I always enjoyed. As a teacher, I became a teacher more after being an illustrator for so long. And I realized that I want to go see their work. I can look at my work, but I want to see what others are doing. I want to go to their shows. And so this was an opportunity to see a lot of people, many different artists, and what they're working on. And to me, it's just enjoyable. And there's always something positive in it. You can look at a piece of artwork. The key is to find that and bring that out, and then slowly get rid of the negatives. But it was getting together, talking to her, and then coming. When you're a child, and most of us can relate to the fact that we make a little drawing as a child and we run to our parents or to a sibling, say, well, what do you think? Isn't that nice? And your parents will comment in a positive way and say, wow, that's nice,
Put it on
and
the
maybe
refrigerator.
put it on a refrigerator. And so ultimately what happens, I think an artist, that's what they're ultimately looking for. It's like an approval, for what they're doing. So it's us as humans looking for always approval. And as I went into that field, my parents were very positive. Well, not my father so much, but he thought I'd be a good carpenter and a cabinet maker. But my mom was always very supportive. And sometimes I would make a painting or a drawing from something I saw or read in the library. My father was religious about taking us to the library every Saturday because he was a great reader. And so from that I learned a lot about artists. I would go look. And I had learned about Toulouse-Lautrec, and I looked and I saw drawings of him or photographs of him, and I made a drawing of him, and I showed it to my mom the next day, and I said, "What do you think?" And she said, "Wow, that's great, I really like it." And then she said, "But don't tell your father." So, but he was really supportive later on. As I really got into the career, he became very supportive. But when I paint a picture, what I do is, there's a narrative, and I think about it, that it tells a certain story. But I'm trying to, myself, paint something that's timeless, that all people will relate to, and that in the future, it's something that others can enjoy. I'm thinking of that as I'm painting, somebody enjoying it way, much further on in time. And that keeps me going, because I not only enjoy it, but I know others may, because it's something that's very basic to me that I see and enjoy, and I think it would be to them too.
I like that library. I like Tuckerton, and the more people that we bring in, it's helpful to the library as well.
And they've been 1,000% in our corner,
Oh, yeah.
on our side,
Yeah,
supportive.
they was the bigger room.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been wonderful. I mean, and Lorraine here with Donna and all the work she's done to get this show organized, I couldn't have done it without her help, so.
As we paint, or when we're painting, you're expending part of your life. You're spending time painting that, and there goes your life, it's going by. So as you're doing that, what I would say to young people, and I've said this before, make a statement, do something profound with that time, because you're spending your life doing it. So make it profound, that's the thing.
When I was living in North Jersey, my friend Randy is a superb photographer. And Randy never went anywhere without his camera. And at this time I had a music store, and Randy used to walk in every once in a while. And he came in and he was really depressed. And I said, "What is wrong?" And he goes, "It rained all day yesterday and it was all cloudy and everything." He said, "I wanted to go up to Ringwood Manor and take photographs, but it was just terrible." And for Randy to not have his camera was bizarre. So he said, "I went hiking up there," and he said, "You know where the little ponds are?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "I was walking by and I saw all this movement in the water." And he said, kind of intrigued me. So I walked up to the pond and I got down on my stomach, and there was all these tadpoles in there. And one of them swam away from the group and swam right up to him and went like this. And he said, "That was the $1 million photo, and I didn't have my camera." So you never know when you're going to see something that's going to create something in your head, when you paint or you photograph or whatever. Sometimes it's just there.
Just don't give up.
Yes.
Follow your dream,
That's it.
whatever it might be, because you may be very, very lucky and it may come true.
Support public libraries. Like, share, and subscribe for more great videos.